4-1, George Taylor, Garrett Philly. And board 2, Craig Nixon, Robin Young.
Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. Monday night, 8 p.m, episode 113. Not out as we are here for the live lounge. Phill Pass, Jack Garwood, and Lee Boyce. Gentlemen, good evening.
Yo, what's up?
Are we not having the end of the intro?
No, I've noticed this the last couple of weeks. Where we've redesigned the video, the song's actually shorter, and I think we're missing the best bit now, Phill.
Oh, sorry. You did okay it before we made it.
We did, and now you're going to have to find another 20 seconds of the intro because we want the rest of the song. You're denying us, you're denying the fans.
I'm glad.
Chat room, tell him. It's missing a good bit of the song, isn't it?
I was reading something and normally I'm dancing in the background. So I'm so glad I wasn't this week because normally I know when to stop.
Oh, that would have been funny if we'd have come live and you lot had all been dancing around.
I mean, I was looking elsewhere as well. It just cut. I was like, hang on. Not that we're that unprofessional that we aren't constantly paying attention to what's going on screen. No, definitely not.
We just know our timings very well. That's all it is, isn't it, mate?
We're seasoned We're seasoned veterans of this.
Welcome, chat room, one and all. Let's see who is in before we get going. Tommy is in. How we doing? Kieran, Tommy 2 is in. Daniel, how we doing? Matty, James, who have we got? Pete Nazim is in. Matthew is in. Craig, how we doing? Frey, Max, of course, Big Johnny is in. Bill, it's going to be epic. Yep, as always. Craig is there.
What, you didn't just put a Go Leafs Go up on the screen, did you?
What's that?
Go Leafs. Maple Leafs. Mate, you got to pay attention.
I don't do American sport.
I know you don't. But I'll have none of that. Thank you very much.
Phil, just as he done his tap on backwards, that's all it is.
I was going to say, Backstreet's back all right tonight, isn't it? He's giving it the old. Look, never a dull moment in the darting world. We have plenty coming up, plenty of talking points. We are going to be joined by friends of the show, Peter Citera and Anthony Eugenie of the CDC, to talk about cross-border and everything that is coming up across the pond. It's been a busy week in darts, boys. Premier League, Euro Tour, cross-border. We've had it all.
Are we still playing the Premier League? I'm only joking.
And Newcastle did their very best darts player impression. They stopped when they got to 6 as well.
and on that point, at least we weren't whitewashed. But yeah, it's
yes, Wayne. Yes. I'll have a bit of that. We'll have a bit of Go Bruins on fire.
To be fair, unlike you two pair of saucy ones at times, it's a dart show. I can handle my team being shit and losing. I can talk about it. I don't mind.
It's a dart show.
5 minutes has got to be a new record for dropping.
5 minutes. You can concede a couple in 5 minutes, Jack.
I think it was 3, wasn't it?
No, I'm sticking to my principles. It's a dart show, gentlemen.
You might, but that's never stopped me.
But look, loads going on. The Premier League, the guys from the CDC are going to be on around about 8:15, which is 2:15 their time. I think we were working out the timings earlier and all that. Look,
if you've got it wrong, they're going to be late.
Yeah,
no,
if they've got it wrong, I'm not being on at 2:15 in the morning, by the way. You're not splitting it round.
I know we have Fergie time, but bloody hell.
that would be quite funny. And we did David from New Zealand. How are we all doing? And the Fun Boy 3. Right, let's rewind. Let's go back to the Ahoy in Rotterdam. Chat room, as well as you two, first impressions of Rotterdam Premier League night. And I'm going to say an unpopular opinion here. Rotterdam's overrated.
It's not unpopular because I was going to say the same thing, and Cam said the same thing on Thursday.
Really?
Yeah. And I don't think the crowd were that great.
They were okay until Michael lost.
Yeah.
And then it was absolutely flat.
And don't even get me started on the fact they get special treatment.
What was that? What treatment did they get?
Football shirts. You know it.
Yeah.
Like that's literally a staple on any matchroom event anywhere on the ticket. And Frampton were like, oh, let's make it orange, which means everybody has to wear their football shirt. No.
Can you imagine if they'd have put flags up there as well, Boise, what he'd be saying?
2 negatives made positive, Phil. We all know these. So he might enjoy it.
Look, don't get me wrong. Up until Michael lost, the atmosphere was decent. But overall, it's not there for me.
I do get that. I understand it because it's got the reputation of being such a great venue. But when you compare it to other Premier League venues, it's not as bad as what we're saying. It's because it's been set in such a high.
Yeah, I agree.
If you look at other, compare that in just
worst. I agree with you, but it's not in my top 3 like a lot of people make it.
Yeah, I'm probably there. I'll probably agree in that sense that it's not one of them, but it's not one that I'm calling to say that it either needs to change how it works there or it needs to move somewhere else, because there is other venues that are a lot worse, and predominantly most of them are near me. The ones that are weakest are in the Midlands, whether it be West or East Midlands. They're two that sort of go into that category of not performing on Premier League nights. But they're always going to have that when there's just Michael in there. Potentially next year it'll be different, because there won't just be one Dutch star in there. There may be 2. Depending on format, maybe even be 3. But that could then have a change on the dynamics of it, because we've seen it in, Scotland with certain players, and then in Holland. So there's no real surprise that when the biggest surprise was Michael losing, I'm guessing in current form, but no real surprise that when he did lose, that the atmosphere was going to drop. It's just how significant it dropped, I guess, is the problem.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it just wasn't there for me, and like I say, it's bordering not being in the top 5.
It's a bit like Old Trafford. 5-10 years ago, it was an absolute must go to, and now you're like, we'll leave it alone.
You worry about visiting your own place before you can moan about doing someone else's.
Yours will be falling down before I get there.
But yeah, the actual night itself was an interesting one. It didn't go how many people thought it would go, and I see Gezi getting a bit of stick on social for his comments about the conditions there. He wasn't every single player moaned about the conditions. It's just that Gezi was the only one to publicly come out and say it. They all moaned. But.
And the key massive point here is there were 3 ton-plus averages on the night, and Gezi had 2 of them. So whilst every player was moaning about the conditions, when you've been capable of producing 102 and 100 in your first 2 games, the conditions aren't the reason you dropped off to an 88 in the final.
To a point, yes, and a point, no. because of the way the condition, because of what was causing the problem with the conditions, at spells it was all right. And that was speaking to the two referees that were up there. When they got the relevant doors shut, it was all right. However, fans going out for a fresh air break out the fire doors was causing the issue.
Still not buying it.
Yeah, I'm not as well.
So I think it definitely had a bearing on the whole night. Not any individual games. It had a bearing on the whole night.
Yeah, I get that. I get that. But I just don't understand the price complaints about that being against the level of performance when you first two haven't been.
He was moaning about it in game one when he averaged 102.
But moaned about it, but still performed.
Yeah, I get that.
As a professional in any other sport, if you're playing in, I don't know, any other sport where conditions can have an impact, and yes, there's still tan in darts, and I know there shouldn't as much with it being an indoor sport, but the tan still have an impact. As a professional, you've just got to get on with them. It's the same for both players in this scenario. And Nathan still performed to the level that he performed.
I don't agree with that because darts react different in the air depending on weight, size, length. If they were all throwing 32-gram bombs, then I'd say yes. But because every dart is different, I don't think it is the same for every player. Like, if there's a great big breeze, Stephen Bunting's darts are going to react hugely different to Ryan Searle's.
Is there a massive difference between Price's weight and Aspinall's weight?
I don't. 20, 25 and 21, I think, off the top of my head.
It's fairly significant.
But yeah, look, I'm not saying it, but all I'm saying is darts is different because it can act differently. But the actual night itself, first up, Johnny Clayton averages a ton to beat Chris Dobie 6-4. Decent game to kick us off. Game two, Michael Smith played okay. Started well, but the wheels kind of come off at 3-all, I think it was, boys.
Yeah. All it was, and Price showed the levels that he can do.
Yeah. Dimitri van den Berg won, let's be frank, an awful game between him and Peter Wright.
Yeah, that prediction went really well.
I worry about both of them at the moment. I genuinely do.
There's nothing to worry about. There's 4 nights left. Everyone's going to win a night. So it leaves Dimmy and Peter to win one each.
Nice to say that without laughing.
The Premier League does throw at random wins. What I can't see right now is it wouldn't surprise me if one of them goes on and wins a night because that can happen in the Prem. What I'd be very surprised if with 4 left is both of them going on and win one.
Yeah. And then the shock of the night again. Not a very good game. Michael Young against Nathan Aspinall. And look, MVG looked out of sorts, maybe too much pressure on himself, but he definitely never looked once happy up there.
Is it a shock?
No.
It's a surprise.
Ish.
Any of these 8 can beat any of these 8 that went in. But I'd still say it's a surprise result.
Potentially. But since Van Gogh, I keep going back to it, since he told us he was there and it was safe in week 4 or whatever, he just hasn't been the same Van Gogh, and he's lost a lot of focus, a lot of drive. He's not picking up Euro Tour events or Pro Tours the way that he can and does as well. And he's missing darts at a double again. And it just feels like he doesn't have that switch when he needs to throw it, which in the past, when he's been able to dip in and out like this, he's got that extra gear when he needs it. It's not there on demand right now. And we keep going on about, it's Gezi MVG, Gezi MVG. I'm not convinced that's the narrative right now. I don't think MVG is that second one to be with him there.
But there's still a lot of time for that to happen. There's still Players' Championships. There's still Euro Tours. We're still, about a month away from finals night. And I think if someone would have said a month ago, whose name's on this title, not many probably would have said Derwin Price, and it was more around MVG. Yes, Price.
I agree, but I disagree with Gob's point that you say it's not about MVG and Price. Right? Take those two out. The other 6 consistently have been shit.
Won't go that far.
When you look, I just look back through the averages and whatever, and the performances. They're the only 2 that have performed regularly.
Dobie's level has been solid. He's just not got results. I don't think you can call Johnny shit. He started badly, and last week's performance against Gezi was crap. Other than that, he's been decent for the mid part.
I don't think he has.
Asper's scrapped.
I'd say he's been decent, but you wouldn't have him as a title contender right now.
Decent, but nowhere near the
He
level.
literally won the Orator on Sunday, but we won't have Johnny as a title contender.
But when we're talking Premier League form, there's a big difference between Premier League form and Euro Tour form.
It's similar. It's all around.
No, I disagree.
Van Goen's switching off in the Premier League he's done nothing outside of the Premier League since.
No, I disagree. I think Premier League form is completely
What do you mean
different.
you disagree? He has done nothing. Since he switched off from week 4 in the Premier League, his all-around form has dropped.
Okay, that I agree with, but the rest have done nothing elsewhere anyway.
Johnny has.
Apart from yesterday. But on the Pro Tour, he's been average at best.
Did not make a semi the other week as well.
1 semi out of 10 Pro Tours. For a player of Johnny Clayton's calibre, is that good enough?
There's only so many players that can make a semi-final, Phil.
Yeah, but I don't think 1 out of 10 for Johnny's capabilities, you'd expect more from him than 1 semi-final.
You expect more from everybody in the top 32, but they can't all make it.
I disagree. I genuinely do. I still think the narrative is Price and MVG. They are by far head and shoulders the best 2 players in this 8. By a long way as well.
They are the top 2 players. I'm now in the middle. I'm not sure they're head and shoulders above the rest. I think they are the top 2. I think the narrative is there for the top 2.
I think right now Gezi is head and shoulders above the rest. I think it's Gezi and then a mixture of everyone else.
No, Michael's in that category with Desi.
I think it's Gezi. Michael's in with Johnny, Michael Smith and Asp, and then the others are at the bottom. Dobie's a little bit unlucky in there, I guess. First time in his performances have been good. And then the bottom 2 are cut away. Or lack of haircut. Phase.
And then moving into the semi-finals, Johnny Clayton beaten with an 88 average against Gerwin Price. Oh, sorry, beaten 6-1 by Gerwin Price.
I literally said, apart from that game against Gezi 5 minutes ago. But yeah, carry on. 6-1. 6-1. That's 6-1. What a convenient time to bring that scoreline up, Philip.
Sorry, I thought you were talking about the Newcastle game as well when Johnny was awful against Gerwin as well.
Yeah, 6-1.
Who's Johnny got this week?
We'll come on to that in a minute.
Who's Johnny got this week?
Gezi. Gezi did an absolute number on him, and then Aspinall beat Dimitri van den Berg 6-4, and then in the final, Aspinall stunned Gerwin Price and picked up a title. But I suppose Nathan winning, boys, has thrown up more questions than answers. Would that be fair?
Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah.
I think it's difficult. Nathan winning has made it difficult for people to grasp just how much trouble Nathan might be in.
It's pipe it over tracks a little is probably the standard saying.
The outcome and the result masks performance, not performance level, because he's still battling through, but the serious issues with his action right now.
Yeah, look, we'll play the clip because you can hear it in his voice, and then we'll talk about it. So here's the clip from Aspinall's interview on Thursday.
Very tough. People don't understand what I've been through. Not just this week, but the last 2 or 3 months. Very tough, personally. I went to speak to, I'm not embarrassed to say it, I went to speak to someone, I like Sean, fantastic, he's done miracles with me. I pulled out of Wigan and spent some quality time with my family. My kid's grown about 3 inches since the last time I saw her. Went Blackpool, Michael went Vegas, Gezi went Tenerife, having sunny old Blackpool. But it was fantastic, spent a bit of time with my family. I'm not through a DARTS since last Thursday and, just got refreshed and, kind of realised why I'm doing all this for. I'm doing all this for my family and, for us to all have a better life. And I just turned up this week thinking, you know what, it could be worse. It could be, could be turned up on I've never been a builder, I was an accountant, but I could turn up on a building site for 60 quid, I'm playing in front of 10,000, 11,000 people. Just go in there and enjoy yourself and relax. And that's what I've done. And, I tried to enjoy myself tonight and I've come out on top. And, yeah, after the week I've had, what a result.
I'll touch on what you said in your Sky interview as well. You said you didn't know if you wanted to play on the stage again after last week. Was it really that bad? And look, we've seen you do many great things on that stage, the highs and the lows, but that's quite something to run through your mind that you didn't know if you want to do anymore.
Yeah, it's been bad. I'm dealing with it. There's clearly been a flaw in my throw, as everyone can see, the world can see. There's been an issue in my throw. I'm dealing with it. I'm working with the right people to sort this thing out. And I've just won a Premier League night beating world number 3, world number 2 and world number 7 with a flaw in my throw. So imagine how good I'll be when it's all bang on.
It was more the tone of his voice for me that it was, I've got to put a brave front on here.
Yeah. And I think, that last bit, imagine how good I could be. I've just beaten. It's almost trying to positively reinforce the fact that he can play before somebody uses it against him. Because when you do have something like that, a large part of it is mental. It absolutely has to be. It is a mental block. That's what the releases and the regrips, a large percentage of that are something in your brain telling you not to let go of that dart at that moment. And one comment, one out of time word from somebody in a practice room could throw you completely. And I think that's why he's been so reluctant to say that and speak out how he just has, because I hate the dartitis word that's because the minute somebody says you've got it, that's in your head. And it's incredibly difficult to get out of that habit.
Yeah, no, I agree. And it was, you saw him on stage a couple of times, like last week and this week. When he walked off against MVG, he looked close to tears.
Yeah, it's because the struggle of release is constant thinking about it, and it's no surprise, and you can't though you hold through with it, but there's no surprise that having a week away from the sport, he's come back and then done well by taking his mind off it, or tried to. Let's be honest, yes, he's had a week away from the sport, but it's still been playing on his mind at some point, because he's a professional, he knows what he's coming to do, and he's about to perform in front of thousands of people and however many people watching on TV. It's just one of those that it's a shame to see someone who put so much into making sure he was in this 8, which was a very, very difficult 8 to be in, and now he's struggling with aspects of his game. But like he said there, and why when the interview sort of come on and I was smiling about it, it was that arrogance of a darts player was still there right at the end to do, well, yeah, I beat 2, 3 and 7 in the world. I've got a flaw in my game, wait until I have it. And it's that sort of arrogance that just always makes you smile, that to think that you've still got to try and put that positive mindset on what's currently happening. And hopefully it will find that sort of game. And we've seen it, results have shown that. There's no real surprise to see that the Nathan Aspinall has been winning many, many quarterfinals, winning his opening game. But then as the night progressed, he just hasn't been able to get off the line. I think that was only his second final, which for someone in the position he's in the league table is a huge surprise to see that he's only been in 2 finals. But it shows that game is there. when he can release and when he can play his own game.
But I'm not convinced that last line is arrogance. That last little bit. I think it's similar to what Van Gogh was doing for 18 months. It was, if I don't say this, people know something's changed. I have to say this in public because of the front and the character that I have been on my way up to this level. If Van Gogh doesn't tell everybody he's the best in the world when he turns up, people know they've got him because he spent the last 10 years telling everybody he's the best in the world if he turns up.
But whether meaning or not is different. It might be a front, but it's an arrogant front. Yeah. So whether he goes away and he believes that, or he's in his head, I'm thinking I've got to send a message out to the rest of the players. It is a form of arrogance, saying, "Well, I'm not playing well at all at the minute, but I'm still beating you a lot. What happens when I'm not?" It may just be a front.
That's the thing to look out for in situations like this. It's when that changes from what we're hearing from Nathan Aspinall. If you go back and have a look at Glenn Durrant for the last 18 months, you will be able to pinpoint the exact moment Glenn lost confidence in himself because he stopped being boisterous in his interviews. He stopped telling people he was going to win it. He was, I'm going to see what I can do. And when you see that language change, that was the moment we all became fearful that Glenn Durrant's PDC career was over. And 9 to 10 months later, that's exactly what transpired. And we're going to talk about someone similar in a little bit. We've started, and there's another player very, very close to walking away, it seems, and it wouldn't surprise me. He's not as vocal on social media or as outspoken or anything, but I think if we were to go back and deep dive in the interviews we've actually had with AD Lewis in the last year or so, you might be able to spot a change of language in there somewhere as well.
Yeah, we'll touch on AD obviously later on. You've seen I've started. Right, before we move on, here is the table in full. We have a new leader after a couple of months. Gathering Price is top of the table on 30 points. MVG on 29. They're done. They're dusted. 2 places for the O2 remain. Aspinall, Clayton hold those spots. Smith a point back. Are the other 3 done, boys?
The bottom 3?
Yeah.
Unless Dimmy wins this week.
It's not Dimmy for me, it's Dobie.
I can't see that follow on week on week.
I know he's a point further behind, but I just think performance level, Chris Dobie is far better right now than Dimitri Vandenberg and Peter Wright. That's just not reflecting in the table. It's Mensur Sulovic and Kim Hybrex and Jelle Klassen of 6-7 years ago campaigns where they were playing very well. They just weren't getting results. And it's that step up in level for the very, very first time.
I think, like I said, I don't see Dobie getting that amount. However, if Dimmitt and win it and be batting that mix with either Smith or Clayton not picking up a win this week, then maybe he can close it. But he's got to win this week. It's a must win for Dimmy. And the worrying sign is only been in 1 final. Across 12 weeks isn't a positive sign, but I think if we're in a similar position this time next week, Phil, I think it will be closed off that it's 2 of 3.
The issue with the ones chasing the pack right now is if you look at the fixtures, this week isn't too bad. They are pretty spread out. Chris Dobie's in the top half. Peter Wright's there as well. Then you've got Price v Clayton, so one of them's going to get stalled, whatever. Aspinall versus Dimitri. The week after, those bottom 3 are in the same half of the draw. So whilst one of them is going to make a semi-final and possibly even a final, the rest of the table is gaining points. Yeah. So that gap becomes bigger. Michael Smith, Nathan Aspinall, Gerwyn Price, Marco van Gerwen, at least one of them's making a final. At least 2 of them are making semi-finals. They're going to pick up points and make that gap wider.
What's the game, in your opinion, that decides who finishes in the top 4?
Aspinall versus Clayton on night 16. I think they're 4th and 5th. I think we'll see something from Michael Smith in the next couple of weeks that will just see him edge ahead of Johnny Clayton and Nathan Aspinall. And I think it'll be a shootout between 4th and 5th. Similar, Joe Cullen, Peter Wright. Similar.
After last year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is the one benefit of this format. But the other problem with that is the rest of the night is dud. That is literally the only game that matters, unless there's a significant points to make up from 5th or 6th from a night win that will get them there. But the rest of the night means nothing. 1st v 8th is an absolute dead rubber. 2nd v 7th, I guess, would be the same. Might be in with a shot at 3rd v 6th, meaning something if Dobie or Dimitri win a night and go to at least a semi or a final in the other 3 nights. But it's literally 4th v 5th.
I'd look at that Sheffield sort of draw and see that Johnny Clayton's like Dimmy. And obviously it's hard to predict something that's a few weeks away, but you'd see Johnny coming through that, and there would be no surprise then when stuff to play for if Smith gets Fuhrer MVG, so that Clayton Smith then in a semi-final could be T. But other than that, it's hard to look at the 4th, 5th game and the final game, which I expect to see Aspinall in there, even though he's better positioned than the other 2. I'm just not sure if it'll be Johnny or Michael Smith who'll be playing against.
I guess the more and more you look at these fixtures now, I said it'd be that 4th v 5th. Aspinall plays Dimitri van den Berg next week, but then he runs into Price or Clayton. I still think, despite the results at the minute, they're both favourite over him right now.
Yeah.
The week after he plays Michael Smith first round, the winner of that plays Goen, Price or Van Goen. Look, brilliant achievement last week, but I'm not seeing a final for Aspinall in either of those 2 weeks. The week after that, he plays Goen, Price first round, so his running is actually pretty difficult. He's got a favourable first round this week, but actually after that, his first round are tough and his semis aren't much better. Next week, Johnny Clayton is favourite to make a final. Before a dart is thrown, Johnny Clayton is favourite to make a final in the top half in Manchester. He plays Peter Wright, and then he plays the winner of Chris Dobie and Dimitri van den Berg.
And then the week after in Leeds, he plays Dimitri first. So Johnny could rack some points up in weeks 14 and 15.
Which he might need to, because if Michael Smith and Nathan Aspinall get going under the finalists this week in Leeds, Johnny's playing Gezi first round. That's tough.
Muppet.
Right, from there, we are going to go across the pond. I'm going to talk about the CDC Cross-Border Challenge ahead of our guests. The inaugural tournament, Cross-Border and the Nations Cup, gents. Great to see live on YouTube and PDC TV. So we got to see everything from across the pond. First reflections, a very enjoyable tournament.
Yeah, massively. I mean, we've been bigging up the CDC for a long time on the channel, not just because they're coming on to chat to us, but in terms of expansion areas for professional darts, corporation darts. They are making waves right now. They are above, they're ahead of the game. They are producing more events. They're producing stars. We're seeing those players have success elsewhere in the form of the Seniors Tour. David Cameron's already a Masters champion. Leonard Gates is defending champion of champions. We're seeing that those players go on to play in the Moda Super Series with varying levels of success. We saw Alex Spellman play in there recently. We saw Jacob Taylor play really, really well in there recently. And there's just a lot of good things. There's a lot of intrigue around North American darts right now, mainly because of the way that they've played in World Cups before, in terms of the Canadians in particular, but actually the USA and the US Darts Masters last year was really interesting. So, yeah, really, really intriguing. It was a format that wasn't quite the Ryder Cup style, team-based, but it was set up nicely that it was half and half from each nation, and that was what all the first round fixtures were. That being said, a little bit disappointed in the performances of the Americans.
Yeah.
I appreciate they were missing Danny Baggish last minute in terms of representing them, but Danny Lowby beaten early, then the Gates beaten early, Chuck Pulio beaten early. Tight games in some of them, but the Canadians were rampant this weekend, and
I think you're being nice, Bob.
Considering the shorter format in that first round as well, the performances got better on the Sunday from the Canadians, but that first round, they were there for the taking, and the Americans let themselves down.
Yeah, I think you're being fairly generous to the Americans because I think they were very poor across that sort of opening, especially the names that are in there. and how some of them are playing as well. The form that some of them are down into that. It was very surprised to see where it pan out how it did in the early stages.
Yeah, look, one name that caught my eye across the whole tournament, and I didn't know a lot about him, was Steve Warnock. I thought he played very, very tidy, a nice action, just a lot to like about him.
To go and beat Leonard Gates that comfortably in the first, look, short race, easy to get caught, cold, etc. But to beat Leonard Gates 4-1 to open up, superb. John Norman Jr. is a character, but he's playing some very, very steady darts right now. Obviously beaten by Jeff Smith in the semi-finals, but let's be honest, Jeff Smith was just a level above on that final day, wasn't he? He just went through the gears when he needed them, took his chances, he lived up to his nickname, didn't he? It was a silencer, like, I'm just gonna have you. You leave the door open for anything, I'm gonna have it. And he did exactly that. A professional job from a player that has got more professional experience than an awful lot of the players that were taking part.
Yeah, and look, we've put the bracket up so everyone else can see it as well. Again, in the opening round, the last 16, Joey Lenar, although he lost, there's a lot to like about the young man. I think, again, one that's got a big future. But just going, Jacob Taylor was the Jacob Taylor we saw at the Super Series. That was decent. A little bit disappointed with Alex Spellman, considering how well he played when he came over. Didn't play as well as what we've seen him play.
Yeah, Dan disagree.
That was sort of the standouts on day one. Then obviously we came back on day two for quarterfinal action. Jim Long was steady in beating Keith Way. Jacob Taylor played well to beat Alex Spellman. You always felt it was in control of that game. Then Jeff Smith whitewashes Jules Van Dongen, 96 average. I know Jeff's spoken about his equipment change and everything like that, but he seems to be getting to grips with that one now. And Steve Warnock beat John Norman Jr. Semi-finals, all Canadian semi-finals. Jim Long, this was a surprise for me, but Jim played really, really well. A 5-2 win over Jacob Taylor. I thought Jacob was the favourite going into that one. And then Jeff Smith whitewashes Steve Warnock. And then Jeff Smith completes an unbelievable day, 16-0, boys. That's some feat to go through a day without dropping a leg, no matter where you're playing, who you're playing, or whatever.
When we talked about how strong this field is, to then go on and win it in the way he's done and won it, yes, there was a few early shots, probably to say early on, but the fact that Jeff Smith's done and won it the way he has done from someone who's put in an incredible amount of air miles. You mentioned there about the right darts. Hopefully he can travel with his darts one day, so there's been other risks of not being able to do that. But that man is always in an airport. He's put so much so much travel time into this sport over the past few years, and it's great to see a reward on the back of that. So, what a way to do it!
Yeah, and look, just the whole event in general, it just shows how far the guys in North America, the CDC, have come to be able to put on something like this. I know we're going to talk to them shortly, but for the first event, a lot of pluses.
Yeah. Well, no real surprises that there's a lot of pluses because the field, the organisation of the tour, there's no real surprise that we're only talking about a lot of positives from this event. Yeah.
Just on that, lads, can you carry darts in your hand luggage if you take the points out? Yes, you can. It's something that's being looked at by a lot of players now. We've seen Peter Wright have his darts custom made to do that. Scott Williams
doesn't give many darts long enough.
Yeah, Scott Williams did it.
He's nice to travel with, yeah, but you've got 12 sets, Peter.
Yeah, Scott Williams has done it recently, so yeah, you can. But the tournament itself as well, the Nations Cup, the way the ties went, was a little bit of a letdown as a spectacle because it was done and dusted on day one because Canada were that strong. But I like that team element to it as well.
Yeah, with you then. It just seems like there's a lot to set up. We're calling for a lot more for team play. We've finally got our sort of way with getting the World Cup in doubles. I'm saying we've done it all, but you know what I mean. So it's always good to see that team.
We, though, isn't it? That's what
Yeah,
fans
yeah.
have
A collective way.
It's not an OD. It's
yeah.
Dart fans have got what we want.
And I think the team aspect of the sport, for me, we don't see enough of it. And I know we've spoken about it on sort of in the future in some regards to seniors, if there was like a mixed doubles or something around the ADC sort of events, there is other opportunities to do it. We can't always be reliant on the PDC to come up with these ways of working. So I think it's great to see that other organisations are looking at ways of a team element. We all want the Ryder Cup, though, let's be honest.
Yeah, it will happen. We know it will. I just want to touch on Leonard Gates. A reality check's the wrong word, but do you think this was just a back down to earth type moment for him after the month he's had?
Yeah, the year he's had. He's had a fantastic, give or take, 12 months. No, there was no real surprise to see him go on and win the Champion of Champions because we'd seen what he'd done last year in the World Series in America. So it can just happen. It's just a one-off. I'm expecting him to bounce back, and hopefully in the UK we're going to see a lot more of him as well.
Yeah. Right. Everyone, we are going to grab a quick 30-second ad break because our guests have arrived. So we'll be back on the other side of this. Welcome back to the live lounge, everyone, and there they are, our guests for the evening, Mr. Peter Citera and Anthony Eugenie from the CDC. Gentlemen, what a weekend you've both had at Cross-Border Challenge. First of all, how are you both?
Hey, Phil, great to be with you. Doing fantastic, a little tired from the weekend, but certainly I think we did some good things.
Hey, boys, good to be with you. Yeah, and I'm flat out exhausted.
We don't let you have a break. Sorry, straight back on. We get you straight on this show as soon as you've done the hard work over the weekend.
Oh, Lord.
The media schedule is getting difficult.
Welcome to my world. No, look, first of all, a fantastic tournament from our point of view. We loved it. It was great for the first time to be able to watch everything. There it is.
Cross-border, baby.
Look, I know we've spoken for a year, 18 months about being able to watch more of your stuff, so it was great to be able to watch every tie of Cross-Border, gents.
Thank you. Just heard the lead up, and we were thrilled that the team component actually added something to it. As you know, the Canadians really made a statement, I think, over this weekend on a lot of levels.
Yeah, look, they were absolutely superb. Oh, Peter, you've muted yourself.
First time ever, Peter Citera.
Everybody here's happy about that. No, I actually had a technical issue with my headset that I was trying to resolve, so apologies for that. But I just chimed in and basically said, yeah, the Canadians were, I don't want to say unexpected. There was nothing unexpected, but certainly when it's that much of a dominating performance, you kind of take a step back and go, wow, who'd have thought that?
Yeah, look, especially going into a hostile atmosphere as well. New Jersey, we heard the Let's Go USA and everything like that around, but they didn't have a lot to cheer about, unfortunately.
No, that's for sure. And to be fair, New Jersey's a hostile atmosphere to people not from New Jersey. So,
look, from your guys' point of view, this was the first major event that you'd hosted where you'd sold tickets and it was on TV for everyone to watch. So I know it's only the dust has only just settled. What's the initial feedback been from both players and fans and everyone?
Peter?
The players loved it. It was fantastic in their eyes. The atmosphere was electric. It was the best crowd we've seen in North America in a long time, if not ever, in terms of just a North American event. We have sold tickets in the past. Our Continental Cup has been a ticketed event for the past 2 or 3 times we've offered it, but that wasn't the proper venue that this was. And so, you're in a proper venue, you provide gravitas, and that was the word that was kind of thrown around. Like you walk into that room and you just feel the history of it, and it was set up perfect for darts, and the sound was great, and the crowd was into it, and so it was exactly what you'd want to showcase the sport we all love. I think it was a little bit, I think some of you may have heard me say this in a video I put out on Facebook. From a stream perspective, I think it was a little bit less than we wanted it to be. I don't want to touch on that any more than I already have, but we'll definitely improve that next time round. But we started off with a couple of struggles by Saturday evening. Certainly most of those were resolved, and then we got hit with lightning and a bunch of other stuff. But it was overall, it was a fantastic event, and I think no matter how you consumed it, you could certainly appreciate the magnitude of what we did. And
just Phil mentioned there around the fan sort of feedback, and generally across social media, it seemed to be a very good reaction from a player's perspective, because we all know that the players like to air their views as well, whether on social media or face to face. How's the players reacted to the tournament? Has that gone down as well?
The players exceeded my expectations on the way they received everything. We tried some innovative things where I don't know if you had a sense of the facility. There was a balcony area that we were able to. We gave the players access to half of the balcony. There was a practice area there, and then a seating area for themselves and the guests, so they could interact with the fans. And the players simply loved it. They love to be able to practice in the same environment to sort of get that event feel as they're warming up and get themselves ready mentally. And then a lot of them had a lot of fun looking over the balcony, interacting with the fans. When some fans on the floor caught wind that they were up there, they would chant their names and they'd be able to look over. So all of those cool little boxes that you want to tick to help North American players start to feel like the stars that we want them to get to, take pictures, sign autographs, have your name chanted. So that was fantastic. And the players enjoyed the facility, the feel of it, the look. So coming out of it, they were very happy and very encouraged on those strides that were made. Fans as well in the room. I think the fans were vocal. We cannot say enough good things about the people that were in the room.
Sorry, just we were able to actually interact with them more than I think we have in the past. There were giveaways. Players had brought some stuff to give away, so we were consistently trying to involve the fans and trying to keep them, entertained and make sure they left feeling appreciated. And I think we definitely did that.
And they carried the day. They really did. I mean, they initiated a lot of interaction. I was most impressed when we did have an outside sort of technical issue that put down the lighting on stage. The fans started singing unprompted on their own. And I thought to myself, that's a gain right there, to have an North American audience sort of be hip enough to sort of like, let's keep ourselves entertained. And then that's the point that if we can, turn the corner on that and not look back, that's when we can have successful events that the outside community says, that's a lot of fun and I want to be involved in it.
Look, that's great to hear. And the whole thing is just moving forward so well. But me being me, is this the first taste of what we're going to get? Because now that we've seen it once, are we going to get things like a stream board on your tour events and things like this?
Well, in fairness, we have had stream board. We try to stream every tour event to some level, right? 5, 6, 7 matches. We'll continue to do that, no doubt. If you're talking about will the stream the regular tour matches kind of have a live audience. No, that's not in the current plan. But I can guarantee you that we'll be thinking behind the scenes. Anthony and I will be chatting about ways that we can replicate this, right? Does the Continental Cup go to New Jersey? If we can make it work, there's obviously other considerations, right? It's not just everybody had a great time. It's got to work financially. It's got to work, with the schedule of the venue. But certainly, yes, we're thinking of ways that we can replicate this. There's no doubt about that.
Now we've got all the boys. All the boys are here. All right.
On the New Jersey bit and just being East Coast based, is that a decision that you've kind of made off the back of last year's North American Championships and the US Darts Masters? Because it just seemed to really boom there from June last year. Is that kind of a decision that you've made, that that's the best place for the CDC at the moment?
Pete?
I saw you raise your hand, but you're going to toss that over to me.
Well, no. I mean, not. I hope it doesn't sound self-serving. A lot of it has to do with me being part of the company, being born and raised in New York City, having built relationships and trust and structure in New York. That's how we landed with the Continental Cup in New York City in 2019. We had brought it to a couple other places of the country. Great areas, great people. We just didn't seem to get the attendance support that we were looking to make that move with, to turn a great darts product and a great visual product into a great attendance product. So over time, we've acquired a good amount of members that are on staff from the New York metropolitan area, whether it be New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, what have you. So we were confident that we could bring an event in and get some attendance, and the New York area hasn't let us down. 2019 was a good first step. We were very proud of that. True ticketed event with a good lively crowd, and then we've returned since with the Continental Cup. The event at MSG certainly hasn't hurt. That actually obviously complemented what we're trying to do to make that this area is a hotbed for not only darts activity but darts fandom, if you will. Being in that area, you can draw from Washington, D.C., Philadelphia, Boston.
Yeah, the geography. I was about to chime in and say the geography just works as well. It's the probably the most compact presence of massive dart fans that we have, or certainly players that we have in the country, or indeed on the continent. It was really interesting. I'll mention this, that in the house we had a bunch of fans that were not darts fans. Like they might play casually. Some of them never thrown a dart before in their lives. They heard how interesting this was going to be, and they managed to find their way there. And so, that's always been the key. I think you've heard me and Anthony also have talked about how we need, if we're gonna get to where all of us want to be, right? All of us here, the PDC, if we're gonna get to where all of us want to be, we've got to get into the collective consciousness of the non-darts enthusiast. And there was a big step towards doing that.
Yeah, I completely agree. Moving forward, obviously a lot of talk amongst the players was that qualifying spot for Madison Square Garden, but the tournament itself, the North American Darts Championship, how excited are you to be back there this year to see if Leonard Gates can defend his title and the standard going up as always? How excited are you for June?
I mean, how can you not be excited to have darts at the most iconic sports venue, arguably the most iconic sports venue in the country, right? There's nothing that can equal that if you're a darts freak, like I think everyone here is, right? I think it's going to be interesting to see the tickets. Certainly, ticketing, the economics are different today than they were last year. You're feeling that on your side of the pond. We're feeling it here. Anytime inflation and it comes into play, it stretches the entertainment dollars. So, we're going to have to see how ticketing is. I hope it's going to equal last year. I think it certainly could. So, we'll try to pack the place and get people out there. What's going to help is the amount of great press it got last year, right? Oh man, this is a fantastic event, man. You can't miss. It's going to be back next year. So there's a lot of positive buzz about it, and now it's just got to translate into getting butts in seats that might not have been there last year.
And we certainly hope everything will piggyback off of that. I can't speak moment, because that,
Yes.
as we know, was all over social media. That helped us. It helped everybody in darts, but it should certainly have a positive effect
No doubt.
on attendance at the Masters.
That was going to be my question. Obviously, the crossover into someone as big as Ariel is, and getting Michael Smith, and are you seeing a bigger uptake of casual fans now, people that aren't traditionally involved in the sport, going, actually, this is pretty entertaining?
You know, it's funny. Two of the people that I spoke with, I was trying to interact with the crowd as much as I could, and I went up to a table. They were just having a great time, right? And I said, "Hey, how did you guys hear about this? Do you play darts?" "No, but we're big MMA fans, and we saw Ariel Helwani tweet about it, and so we had to come down and do it." And basically, you know, they've said similar things to what we believe, is that the fan bases for darts, MMA, minor league baseball, minor league hockey, those are very similar fan bases, right? You're trying to get the same type of person, the same type of fan. So it's nice to see that validated.
Yeah, in its context, the numbers weren't massive, but that people were there was a gain. That there were, you know, non-dart players, casual sports fans in the area we were at in New Jersey. Very young demographic, very much just an out for the weekend entertainment kind of demographic in the area. We drew some of those fans in from support and associations with local pubs. So strides were made in that, and people just coming simply to have a good night's entertainment.
How do you compete with this vast number, like Pete, you said about how many other sports it compares with? How do you go about competing with the bigger sports in America? Because in the UK and a lot of Europe, we have football, we have cricket, we have rugby. That's it. And the cricket and rugby are pretty seasonal. Football or soccer is just massive. But other than that, things like hockey and basketball are incredibly minor over here. There's people in the chat that can even name you an English basketball team or an English ice hockey team, whereas you've got the big four sports to compete with, soccer's growing and everything else. I mean, there's millions of channels in the US, but how do you bid for that airtime, I guess, is the extension.
So I think you have to define your market more over here, and our market really isn't to compete. I mean, if we're competing with the NFL, Jack, we're losing.
Well, that was my answer. I didn't want it to sound negative, but my answer was you don't. You know, you just that's going to be what it is, and try and then find your next level, your niche area where you just appeal to people on the sporting nature, but the entertainment nature of it as well.
Exactly. You're 100% right, and really comes down to value, right? It comes down to providing the best entertainment value at the right price. It is prohibitively expensive for a working class family to go to an NFL game. It's to go to an NBA game. To some extent, even to go to a baseball game these days. We're not prohibitively expensive. You could have gotten into that event this past weekend for a great seat with a VIP, right, for just over $100. If you didn't want the VIP, under $100, and get 2 days of fantastic entertainment. So we're trying to find that value proposition, finding the passion, right? The MMA people are passionate, darts people are passionate, finding people that are passionate about something, channeling that passion, and giving them the value that they're looking for.
Also, I'm guessing what's helped is the fact that your marquee players have really stepped up over the last year as well. We've seen David Cameron and Leonard Gates winning on the seniors, Soldier going to Ali Pali, winning his first round game and electrifying the place. So your flagship players almost as well have done you proud, which must be satisfying and also something to build off of as well.
It sounds like you had a microphone in the hotel bar on Wednesday, as a lot of us congregated and sort of took an assessment on what's going on here in North America over the last 5 years, maybe to be honest, you know, to be fair about it, and that's what the conversation was about, was the consistency of performances. They're not always great, but they're at least start to be strung together, that, you know, one player doesn't go out and put up a 94 average and then never does it again. At least if they're in matches numerous times, like you said, we've seen Lauby and Gates and Cameron and Baggish and Campbell. and I'm getting to the second item by doing those names, put up numbers that even if they're not in victories, they're solid enough numbers to be taken seriously. And then the second point is the amount of players over time in both countries and in North America. Like, you've got 1 or 2 players, maybe 3 at any given time, to be able to comfortably just roll off 6, 8, possibly even 10 names that, with Jacob Taylor and Alex Spellman now impressing people at Modus, that we can name you 8 to 10 players that an international audience would be interested to see. That those items to me speaks volume on where it's progressed.
No doubt. And looking at the averages, it's interesting the change in conversation now versus where we were when we started, right? Some of the averages in the first round, I mean, it was a new venue for everybody. There's a level of jitters, there's a magnitude, and so some of the averages were not where I think a lot of the fans would have expected them to be in that first round. And it's just a testament to the fact that everything is new to the player, right? But 5 years ago, we're looking at these averages going, man, those are pretty decent averages. Now we're looking at those averages going, man, they're, these guys, we know they can do so much better. And as you got into the later rounds, certainly you saw the averages go up just as you'd expect.
Yeah, thank you, Peter. I remember this morning just kind of trying to get an assessment, because I as you work in the event, sometimes you don't actually see what's going on in and out of the event as you're trying to do production things. And that's what I looked at. A lot of high 80s averages where we would have felt that was a lot of gains, but the players have set us up recently to say, well, that's not great. But in terms of where we've talked about as a continent, those are pretty good progressive numbers. And we know the players have the aptitude to bump that up. Which now, to sort of like bring it full circle about Phill, you're asking about the excitement about New York is, those names and those numbers and all that stuff is why we are so thankful and blessed and excited, particularly about that North American Championship, that as a continent, we get a chance to have 8 players on their own get showcased on a brilliant platform. And that makes it, for us here, really exciting to see the possibilities of what goes on in that event.
Go on.
Does the drive to produce those players come at a little bit of a trade-off now? Because you're one of the first organizations that are a PDC affiliate that mean if they're a tour card holder, they won't be able to play in the floor event. So it's brilliant for growing and getting eyes on your side of the game. But if you lose 6 players next year to go and be a tour card holder, does that make what you're trying to do within the United States that little bit more difficult because you don't have those star name attractions?
Jack, at the end of the day, I don't think so. We need to be able to create that pipeline. And sometimes in order for somebody else to come up and shine, they need the person that's in front of them to progress to the next thing, right? And that's true in darts, it's true in just in organizations in general. Would I lie to you if I said that if we lost 5 of our players, that wouldn't hurt? Or, no, of course that's not, that it would hurt in the average sense and the fan sense, right, at the beginning. But I think that the point that we're doing, we're creating this kind of conveyor belt, if you will, of development. And I had some hand in helping to draft that rule that you saw the PDC release. At the end of the day, I think it's the right thing. It's not an automatic ban, right? The first year, if you're in your 2-year tour card, you're able to play without restriction. The second year, you're able to play unless you're in the top 64. So you're really not severing the tie for somebody who really gets their card and now is like, oh my God, what do I do? It's a total, as you know, you live there. It's a totally different world going over here from here to there full time. And so I think they did it the right way.
We've got a few from the chat room before we come back to you as well. Craig says, would you guys like to have more qualifying spots for the World Championships?
That's a no-brainer. Yeah. Absolutely. Triple, quadruple the numbers. Wave a magic wand. Hoorah! But certainly, and as those opportunities might be presented, we take it as a compliment to everybody involved, from the organization to the player to the fans, because all of it, if it all starts to come together, then it becomes compelling and it becomes necessary to give the area more attention.
Got a huge compliment from Tommy here. Boy says thinks North America is the future of darts. A bit like China and snooker. So we've got some fans growing over here as well.
No expectations there, right? We hope so too.
Paul says, what's the youth dart scene in North America like? Is there a JDC type setup?
Yeah, we're actually partners with the JDC, and so I'll let Anthony speak to this. This is one of his babies when we started it, so I'm not going to tread on that. Ant, take this one.
Yeah, we actually, we had a virtual weekend kickoff, but our on-site youth events kick off in a couple of weeks, and we actually run 2 levels, as Pete said. Coordinated with the JDC, we have a juniors, which is 17 and under, so it aligns just like the JDC tour, and then we have what we've nicknamed the Evolution Tour, and that's up to that 23, 24-ish level that the PDC has murkily established, and down to 14 or 16, depending upon I forget what we've set, but we've kind of like set them to match those 2 particular ventures over in Europe, so our players can have the same development opportunities. Again, we don't offer as many events as they do over in Europe, but we're growing. We're still at, I think we're at 9 this year on each level. So some opportunities for players to come out, get that experience of playing. We try and make it as formal as we can, so they can start to be trained in that way, just like the JDC does some events. Our juniors do some round robin play. And then we ask a little bit more of the evolution players that are 17, 19. Now it's, dress code. Now it's, a proper bull, a little extended format, some 9s and 11s, really get their fill and experience of it. And then we've also been blessed with, just like we are on the top level, we're blessed with the associations to have those players have opportunities. So through our junior tour, we fill a Team USA and a Team Canada to go over to Gibraltar, compete in the JDC World Championships and World Cup. And then conversely, now we've got 2 opportunities for our evolution players, 2 from the United States, 2 from Canada, to play in the Winmore, PDC World Youth Championships. So at every level here in North America, you have an opportunity to compete and go overseas.
Yeah, the path internationally truly does go through CDC. There's no doubt about it.
I know the answer to this question, but I've got one off the back of it. Paul says, has there ever been a World Series event in Canada? If not, there should be. No, there hasn't. But obviously, you guys are always in talks with Matt and the PDC. How close are we to potentially having that North American double header like we have in the Oceanic region?
I listen to this show all the time. I know this is a biggie with this crowd. They want Toronto the week after New York.
Yeah,
correct.
So I'd be lying if I said there weren't conversations. But at the end of the day, it has to work financially for them as well. These things are not small events to put on. And so, having gotten a glimpse into, I look at what we did and I look at knowing what their expenses are and what it costs them. Like, you've got to be set up to make that happen. A lot of that comes down to sponsorship, right? And so, if you can sell it, you can do it. And so, it wouldn't surprise me to see that happen. But certainly, there's some things that have to happen before it can, if that makes sense. And I'm not going to be one to speak for Matt Porter, so you ask him that question.
Don't worry. So, am I being greedy and saying, can we have 3? Can we have Vegas, New York, Toronto?
I was going to say, and for Phill, let's tag on Vegas, because I know that's
and also,
we just send Phill to Vegas, and the rest of us will do the darts.
Honestly, and this is now I'm probably going to go into the realm of Pete's going, be quiet and don't get us in trouble. But who thinks that wouldn't work if you did New York, Toronto, and Vegas? It would work, right?
I'm completely down for that.
Tell you what, Phill, if we were to maybe hypothetically have an event in Vegas at some possible hypothetical time in the future, hypothetically, you could come cover that hypothetical event.
Can you just WhatsApp me the dates when we're done?
Hypothetically, send you the dates in private. No.
If you get him a Vegas event, he's got to pay for me to come do the New York.
I'll take Toronto. It's fine. I'll take Toronto. We worked it.
An interesting one for you guys as well that came out from 2 players, obviously, I did the media stuff with, and they were talking about Matt Campbell's impact. Even though he wasn't there, he was the one that they're all shooting for now. And it was Jim Long that actually said, in his opinion, Matt's the best player to come out of North America since John Park. That's a huge statement.
I'll jump in the fire for you, Pete, because I see you're a little reticent over there. I don't want to go. I don't want to go that far with comparisons. I will keep it on Matt in that. Again, it's sort of a conversation that you're eavesdropping in. Yeah, I think Matt is let's put it this way. Matt is about as solid as we've seen come out of North America in a long, long time. And I think when Matt gets the full traction under his feet, not that he hasn't already, but I think if he can get to that top 32 and those other places where the major and other televised opportunities come, and I'm well versed enough to know how that snowball starts rolling downhill. Opportunities lead to money on the order of merit and so on and so forth. Keep you there. I think when Matt gets to that plateau, it's going to take quite a while for him to be nudged off of that. He's going to have a very substantial time in that spot.
Last one before we let you go. If I said to you, the pair of you, where would you like the CDC and Darts on North America to be in 2 years' time? If the live fans, if we haven't been cancelled by then, if we're still doing this in 2 years' time, where would you guys like it to be?
So that's a really interesting open-ended question, mainly because we're really good at being 5 years into 2-year plans, Phill. But from my perspective, from the business end, we'd like to see 3 or 4 major events. We'd love to have the gambling aspect to be able to be wagered on, to be able to generate revenue that way, which enables us to do more bigger, intense things, to pay players more money, to really create that separation that we're trying to do, right? Anthony hit on something when we first started this, when he talked about the exclusivity and making those players put them on the pedestal we want them to be on. In order to be able to truly do that, you have to make it worth their while, right? You can't take away opportunities from players if you can't pay them what they need to be paid in order to do it. So there's a lot of moving parts there that I think we might be able to crack. I think we're standing. I use in internal conversations and with business partners, I use the Sisyphus example, if you're familiar, right? Pushing the boulder up the mountain. And I think, my lips to God's ears, I think we're that close to getting it over the top and letting it kind of roll down. So that's kind of my 5-minute or 2-minute non-answer to your question.
Yeah, I concur in that, and it's all about. It's a large reason of why we were committed to doing this past weekend, was to get the exposure of the potential of what the next level could be. So we wanted to try and capture the imagination of the mythical sponsor that we continually talk about, that would help raise this to everybody's levels of expectation. So that would interpret, a longer tour, more events with more prize money. So just as Pete touched on, it's a true payoff to more players committing to the tour over a longer period of time. So, and then interspersing that, as Pete said, we're very, very keen on expanding our sort of quote unquote majors and things that are highly televised and covered and in venues like the White Eagle, like that. The word I've been using when we first went to the White Eagle was, this is what North America deserves. And I hope everybody sees that. There's been so much work put in by the fans that truly love it, the players that have committed to it, and the organization. Like, this is where the game in North America deserves to go.
And you'll hear us make some announcements in the next week or so that I think you'll like, that will, opportunities that are presenting themselves now that can lead to exactly what Anthony and I just discussed. So
just, boys, you said it there. We need the mythical Ryder Cup tournament, and also the two. Can we have the mythical Ryder Cup and the Royal Rumble?
The mythical Ryder Cup isn't so mythical. It's drawn up in Anthony's little book of events.
Yeah. Oh. Pardon me.
he puts together the ideas that I have to finance, right?
You really got me. Oh man,
Anthony sounds like me for this show.
I can't speak.
Right, we need to do
can't
this.
speak.
I can't do that while I'm on screen. I'm like, but we're doing it.
I literally can't speak. Okay, the voice is back. I would have strongly, as I have sometimes privately, really said that that's a go before this weekend. It came out pretty well. I'm not saying we can't make some tweaks to the quote unquote Nations Cup thing, but it's like part of me likes that, and especially what happened with Canada. Like, I kind of want to give the USA boys, and this is no, I make sure to have the little Canadian scarf up there so things are even, a huge flag, little scarf. I don't know. But I kind of want to give the USA boys a crack at getting it back. What I like, what had developed is that we get a chance to do 2 events in the same weekend at this point when we don't have tons of money to just easily put a second event on the calendar. Now, that's not to say that I still don't truly love the straight up Ryder Cup type of thing where you've got an expanded roster and it's singles and doubles and maybe, trips or quads or something cool like that. So that's definitely still in the pipeline, but there was excitement enough with this that I can see us possibly staying with this maybe for at least another crack or 2, and we'll see where it goes.
Don't let your mouth write checks that our company can't cash.
Oh, I've been trying hard not to commit to this, but I mean, again, it's all about funding, and I hate to keep sounding like that, but I mean, there's a couple of great ideas and things that would be fantastic, like, if we can substantiate this, we would also love to have another sort of season opening big event, like overseas, something to sort of signify the start of the year in a big way, in a showcased way, and give something for players to look at the end of the year, not just the tour finals in the Continental Cup. Look at the rankings and say, well, I can position myself for not only retaining my card, but I might be able to qualify into, said spring event, things like that.
You can kind of hybridize the Euro Tour format in that case. There's a lot of things you could do, but I want to say one more thing. When Anthony says, I hate to keep saying this, folks, I think it's important that we say this. The PDC Matchroom is a massive corporation. They've gotten there because they're good at the business side of it, right? This is a business. It has to succeed financially or it doesn't succeed at all. We don't stay in business on, Skittles and rainbows. It doesn't work that way. And so, it's important that the people out there watching understand that at some level, when you put on events, if you love it, come spend a couple of bucks, come commit, because you're part of the whole plan. Obviously, advertisers and sponsors can do the majority of the lift, but you need people to commit to what they claim to love, and oftentimes that those 2 things don't gel, if that makes sense.
Right now, the most expensive notebook in darts must be Anthony's. Does them ideas? I want to hear all about it.
Can confirm, Lee. Can confirm.
I keep it in a locked safe.
If there's any multi-million-pound sponsor out there looking to buy a notebook, just let us know.
I bring it to every meeting we go to. Let's go, people. Just write the check, and we've got them in the pipeline.
Gentlemen, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you both on talking all darts in North America. We love it here on the channel, and we'll continue to support you guys as always. But thank you very much for your live lounge debut, gentlemen. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you, Phil.
Thank you.
We
Phil,
appreciate
Lee,
you,
Jack. I'm on with Gabi. I mean, my day is absolutely just been made whole.
The Godfather. We're not worthy. We're not worthy. Thanks, gentlemen. Sincerely appreciate it.
Thank you, boys. Keep up the great work.
Quick ad break, everyone, and we'll be back on the other side of this.
Cheers, both.
Take me home, take me on a ride. I got a good feeling about the colors lighting up your eyes. Take me home, take me to the sky. I got a good feeling. Tell me the only thing you are is mine now. I got a good feeling. I got a good feeling. Good feeling.
There you go, chat room. Pleasure to have the guys on. Thoroughly enjoyed talking all stuff about North America. Really interesting chat, boys. It was great to listen to them just talking about the passion and trying to grow it in the States and Canada.
The passion is just we, as mentioned there, we obviously dart fanatics and follow the sport, but the passion that just come from the pair of them, then talking about everything, what's just happened, what's about to happen in the future, it's just great to hear. And with people behind it who are so passionate, it can only go in one direction.
Yeah, it's just a great listen. And look, big things to come in North America as always. Back to the darts on this side of the pond. There was one huge announcement that dropped on social media over the weekend. I think most people weren't surprised, but I think it was more the timing of it, boys, caught a lot of people out, which was Adrian Lewis taking an indefinite break from the interesting bit that I took from it, the wording was professional game. I'm just going to read the tweet. Now, it was in obviously two parts. First of all, part one was, dear all, in particular my fans, I feel that your loyalty deserves an explanation for my absence from tournaments. Over the past 20 plus years, I feel I need a break from the professional circuit now. Massive thanks to the support, my family, sponsors, and then the second one, he goes on to thank the PDC for the opportunities. Cheers, folks. 80. Look, obviously, there's stuff going on behind the scenes, but by the sounds of it, that Adrian needs time to deal with and everything like that. And look, family comes first and always will in any sport. And we wish AD the very best and hope that he can do what he needs to do and get what he needs done. But from a sporting point of view, boys, it's a dangerous slope to have a break, because once that slope, and that it's a very slippery one, once that starts, it is very, very hard to stop it.
Especially for a player that has spent the best part of 6, 7. When was he in that final with Gary Anderson? 2015?
Yes.
7 years now? Chasing a level that I'm just not sure exists in his game anymore. As a talent, Adrian Lewis is one of the greatest this game has ever seen. There is no more free-flowing, natural action that anybody could possibly wish to replicate in the early days of Adrian Lewis's career. He was something special when he got going. But I think through injuries and there's potential to throw in a bit of mismanagement in there, as some other players have experienced, he's not the same Adrian Lewis that won back-to-back World Championship titles and reached another World Final. There's an argument to say that actually, when he did reach that last World Final against Gary Anderson, he wasn't the same Adrian Lewis. And he's been chasing that for an awful long time now, through injuries, through personal difficulties, on the board, not quite producing, showing glimpses and then dropping back off, never quite settling with equipment. For someone who throws such a basic dart as well, he has had so many minor little adjustments to that barrel over the last few years. He has just been chasing a level that I'm not sure exists in him anymore. And when you've been at that level, and this is still your life, and you can make a steady living doing what he's doing, but not the living that you had or the lifestyle or anything like that, readjusting and getting used to that when you still approach the game with the same mentality you had 12, 13 years ago when you're winning world championships, is an incredibly difficult process to go through. And I'm not sure what's triggered this step away from the game, if there is something going on in his personal life as well as struggles on the board or anything else that goes along with it. But there is a big fear in me right now that that's the last we've ever seen of Adrian Lewis in the PDC.
Yeah, just to sort of add on to that, first and foremost, if there is anything personal, all the best. And to AD, what he's done over the past, it's easy to forget sometimes because you're very blindsided on what's happened over the past 1, 2, maybe 3 years. that when you look back probably over the last 15, 20 years, he's been one of the best players in the world. Yes, it was in a spell, but to be back-to-back world champion is incredible achievement, and he's very much a fan's favourite. And he's a fan's favourite because how he plays the game or how he played the game. And I think you're right there, Dob, but it just seems as sort of a different sort of AD Lewis now. And he is trying to recapture being world champion, but he's still a steady top 32, maybe 40 player in the world. You know, he's earning a decent living from the sport as anyone can in that position. He's still done that numerous amount of exhibitions if he's still required to do so and still winning the money. It's just a different mindset of winning the big bucks that he used to win to where he is now. And just thinking back of some of the matches that AD Lewis played, and you know, some of the great games over that period of time have featured AD Lewis, whether that be not just from performances, but the drama that he had with Manly and all those sort of moments that, yeah, we talked about Sky Sports repeating the same sort of games, but that's one of the games that they do tend to repeat an awful lot of. But he's a top player in that period of time. Hopefully he comes back. My worry is that I'm with you, that we don't see him then. And it's easy sometimes to say someone needs a reset, but having a reset in this sport is very difficult, because if you're in a team sport, you can easily then be eased back into the team. There's no easing back into the PDC. If he comes back and just plays a few Pro Tours, you're still then drawn up against your likes of MVG, Derwin Price. There's no sort of easing back in here. There's no reserve games that you can play on this tour. And if you go off it, just the news that would make of him being in Q-stall or anything like that, the pressure on him would be ridiculous. So hopefully the rest does him good, and like says, hopefully it's nothing personal. It's just he wants that time away from the board because he's been at this sport for a long time.
There is still
to stay on the tour. I just feel that he needs to be back playing before the year is over, and not be going back through the tour sort of option, because that then can be a struggle. As much as there's plenty of opportunities away from PDC, but for someone of his talent, we still really should see him on the PDC.
There's a couple of things in his favour. The tour card race he is 38, 101,000. So he's not going to lose his tour card at the end of the year. So if he wants it, he's got 18 months to go back to the tour. Whether or not, however, how late he comes back within that 18 months depends how close or how difficult it will be to retain that tour card, if that is his decision. He's still 38 years old, right? He's still the right side of 40 when you think of the success that players have had at 50 and above. Peter Wright, Simon Whitlock, Gary Anderson, Phil Taylor. There's still plenty of time in terms of the sport. Johnny Clayton's 48. He's had the best years of his career in the last 5 years. Like, there's still time for AD Lewis. It's just, if you look at everybody else in and around the sport, AD feels like he was the very first of players he's a generation where this has been his entire life. And that is an awful long time. Phil Taylor did it for an awful long time, and a few others did. But you look at others and go, right, when did you start playing darts? When did you start playing darts? And a Steve Beaton, we'll say, I was 20 years old or whatever. It feels like AD Lewis has been doing this since he was 10. It feels like he was the first, one of the first that goes, I can make something of this from the age of a child, and pushed and inspired to do it when everybody else is out playing football and all sorts. And look, we've got the JDC and the development tour and all of that alike. But because he's been doing it for so long, we forget just the fact that he is under 40, but it's taken up over half of his life as a professional dart player right now. That will take a toll on somebody. We're not naive enough to think that things like alcohol doesn't exist in sport. If you've been drinking in a sport as frequently as dart players do, and as often and to the volume that dart players do for over half your life, that's going to take a physical effect on your health, as well as the mental effect of getting yourself up for World Championship finals 10 years ago and actually walking into the Robin Park in Wigan going, I've got to play a Pro Tour here, potentially for a couple of £1,000 at best, because I'm not playing well enough to win it.
Just to add to that about the age of him playing the game, he's not someone who's come through that sort of development. When he was that age, the limelight was on him, the pressure was on him, that sort of... You talked about some young footballers sort of folding because they had the limelight at the age of 17, 18. You know, the stories there of AD Lewis was, you know, a well-known household darts name in his late
Like
teens.
glowing, wasn't he? He was here, there, and everywhere at the age of 21.
Well, the thing is, the extra pressure as well, because he was Phill Taylor's protege.
Mm-hmm.
That pressure as well, that he was the one, or that Phill discovered, like Eric was with Phill. AD was that guy, the one that was meant to come along and beat all Phil's records and everything like that. And look, we obviously know they had their fallout, which again didn't help.
But if you look at the downturn of making it to World Championship finals and beyond, there's a big correlation there between the relationship that Adrian Lewis had with Phill Taylor and his success as a dart player. And look, we can get into has he underachieved if this is the end of his career? Quite possibly, yeah. For the man with as much natural talent and to win back-to-back World Championships as early as he did, AD Lewis should have won more elsewhere, away from the World Championships. His major count is lower than Gerwyn Price's, who's only been a dart player for 6 years.
It's always hard to say someone's underachieved when they're back-to-back world champion. I know what you're saying. I know it's because of the talent he was, but it's very hard, very, very hard to say it when
it's difficult to say when you go and win and achieve your dreams as young as he was, and is arguably one of the best player in the world at the time. He even says it in the semi-final when he comes back against Wadey. That's why I'm the best in the world, sort of thing. In his post-match interview, like there's an argument actually for that 18 months or so. He really was, because in his top gear he was untouchable. But the issue is that Phill built him up. Phill was then still bashing him while he was a kid, and then they fell out. So once Phill did bugger off, he didn't have Phill in his corner to help him get and beat everything that Phill had set him up to do.
And since then, the more recent years of when he's played well, and we've seen even over the past 18 months, 2 years, obviously he is where he's in the rankings because we've seen the ton plus averages here and there. We've seen good performances. But right now, that pressure on his shoulders is different to when he was 18, 19. Because when he plays one dud game, it's not as good as he used to be because he can't match it. He can't do it then. Where he's Lucy's name, the same as his Barney back, the same as I know we've joked about sort of Retoisty and certain different players have this sort of, does they have hit a certain height? That height could be different on the ranking system, but does Lewis hit that sort of height? He can go on and win a world title. And if he won a world title now, people would still say, yeah, but he's not as good as he used to be. And it's that ridiculous high level that he set himself from such a young age. And you can't do nothing about. If you've got that talent, you're not going to step back. But the pressures on him have been ridiculous since he's been in the sport, since he's been a household name.
Yeah, and look, it's hard to imagine not seeing him on a PDC stage again. So let's hope that Adrian can go away, do what he needs to do, rekindle that passion, find that love for the sport again, because like we said, there's still nothing better than a free-flowing Adrian Lewis in World Darts. But evening, Dave Evans is in. Hope you are good, buddy. Joel is in as well. Look, we had such a great chat talking to the CDC boys. So we'll touch on the Euro Tour. We're not going to go into it massively. But there was an event in Austria this weekend. Some interesting stuff played, boys. Some interesting remarks about conditions over there as well from players.
Yeah, a lot of comments about conditions, it seemed. More than the norm.
But by all accounts, just judging off the ones that we saw, that it was like swelteringly hot on stage was the general consensus.
Yeah, I've seen a few. I've seen Luke referred to it, I think, in his. What I will say is if someone's referring to it being worse than Blackpool in July, it must be bad.
I was about to say, yeah, the only one that has come close was the World Cup last year in Frankfurt, and that, again, was just ridiculous. But we have a green jacket in darts now. It's become a thing.
But the thing since Johnny won it the first time, hasn't it?
Yeah, but it's been more emphasised this year. Like I've never seen so many memes, who did it better, and things like that, where we've got the Masters against the Euro Tour and everything like that. It's been real blown and hyped up that we've got a green jacket in darts, and I've got a picture of it. Well,
it's a horrid shade of green.
Yeah.
Johnny just looks like he's borrowed someone's coat to the outside.
I was going to say, yeah, it clearly wasn't tailor-made for him either, was it?
With the trainers as well, like it's like a bad school uniform.
It's raining outside. I'll pop to the shop and I borrow that coat. That's what it looks like in the rest of his attire.
It is quite funny. But again, a run from Mentor Sulovic in Austria. That's where he seems to play well these days.
He doesn't play well anywhere else at the minute, does he, old Mentor? He's won more in that one event than he has all season.
I tell you what, his game, I think it was against Peter Wright, was an absolute stinker.
Yeah, it was. The pace, the performance, mid-70s. Generally.
76.
Raises more question marks to me around Peter than it does Mentor, because not even on that result, but Peter's not been in great form. But if you're going to tell me that one of them's going to average around that, I wouldn't be less surprised if it was Mentor. I'd be less surprised. Yeah, that it was Mentor than Peter. Mentor's done through it like that. Still question marks about Mr. Wright.
He changed darts again, didn't he? That he actually had a meltdown that he chopped and changed in that Mentor game like 4 times, from the New York darts to the Whitlock darts and back again. It was just like,
is it a meltdown that he's changing darts that many times? Any other player on the tour would probably say so.
One thing that has come out of this week's Euro Tour is that Josh Rock is now developed. Because he is in the top 32 in the world, which means he cannot now go and play on the Dev Tour Comp.
Probably just really good news for Luke Litzler. No one would have been cheering those results some more than the 16-year-old we had on this show last week. In his Man United shirt. We still need words about that.
I saw it.
From your hospital bed?
You know I wasn't in hospital. You tit. You big tit.
But yeah, back to the Euro Tour. I suppose that, again, MVG getting whitewashed by Josh Rock in the semi-final.
Which is MVG's first ever loss in Graz, isn't it?
Yeah.
Which seems just as ridiculous to do it in a whitewashing, and that he misses 8 darts of double in that match. But again, there are still chinks in that light green armour.
It's the doubling that's the issue. The scoring's never been, and even when he was having a mare, the dart change, the scoring was still always okay.
Yeah.
The scoring for him has never been an issue.
He's just going to ease himself into that Premier League, ease himself into form, ready for the Premier League play.
Yeah, ready for the O2. Cheers, Ease. The other highlight was Daryl Gurney getting to a semi-final.
He's qualified for enough Euro Tours that lower averages suggest that he's going to put a run together for a couple of them. He has been exceptional in qualifying, and he's been pretty unlucky with the draws he's had while reaching these Euro Tours. He seems to do well to get there and then get shafted with a draw. But again, just that little bit more bit between the teeth I think we need from Daryl. We've spoken about a lot how he needs to channel that aggression, and perhaps being fined by the PDC in the past has taken it away for a long time. But there's clearly still something there with Daryl. He just needs to produce it more and more often.
Yeah. But the Ferret is second Euro Tour title, first since 2018. But more importantly, he's given himself a little bit of a cushion now between himself and dropping out the 16. The Ferret needed that massively.
Same tournament as well. He's only ever won the Austrian Darts Open on the Euro Tour, which, again, seems ridiculous, but it's such an exclusive club to win on the Euro Tour when you look back at the history of it. It's just ludicrous.
I think that the win's huge for Johnny, just to get that winning feeling back. Like it says, it's done it. We know how important the Premier League is to all of them. To have that win behind him going into these final 4 weeks could be huge and could make a difference. in what is going to be looks like small percentages between Clayton, Smith, and Aspinall. So it's a huge weekend for Johnny, and it puts him in a very, very good position in both the Euro Tour rankings, but more importantly for him, just getting back to winning ways.
Last one before we move on, because we'll talk about him later on in the year, no doubt. John Henderson. How good was it to see Hendo back on the Euro Tour? And in the first round game against Dylan Savary, he looked $1 million.
He looks better now without a tour card than he did for the last 18 months trying to hold on to that tour card. It's like not having one has freed him up. I saw a piece Paul Nicholson did for Sporting Life about 6 players that can go on to win their first title, if you like. Now, Henderson's won the World Cup, obviously, but despite not having a tour card, Henderson was one of the players included in the article.
Yeah.
And I think he's bang on. There is a freedom that Hendo is playing with. The performance level has been consistently good. We get to see that consistency that little bit more at places like the Moda Super Series when he gets 3 days or 5 days of group action to show us that level that he's performing at. He was injured in the last final. He hurt himself on one of his days off, and it just took its toll by the end of the Saturday night. But he's right up there. He's a fan favourite. I think that there's the big Hendo week, Hendo appeal, and all that goes with it. And if he carries on playing the way he's playing, you expect him to be a tour card holder again next year. Whether that be through the Challenge Tour or going back to Q School or what other route he can muster up.
Yeah, no, I agree. One thing off the Euro Tour as well, not about the action, but Stephen Bunting got a late call up. Jim Williams withdrew by the look of it. Are we a little bit concerned where Jim is at the moment? Because he turned down the Euro Tour a couple of weeks ago when he was a reserve. Look, we know he's got his business that is his priority. But when you're as high as Jim Williams is in some of these rankings and things like this, that there's a decision that has to be made, isn't there? Sooner or later, that you can't, in my opinion, you can't be a top 32 player and work full time the way he does. It's just impossible.
Yeah, I get that, and I think what he does is he applies pressure than when he does play, or even more pressure as a player, because especially then how the tour card system works and with the rankings, it looks as in like 2 years' time, it's that the money that isn't there, and it's just it puts unnecessary pressure. I'm not saying someone dropping out, someone turning down as a reserve if you're working, I can understand a bit more. Someone who's then qualified and then turns it down, that's the strange one for me. I wasn't surprised to see him as a reserve and then turn it down if, like says, he has to prioritise work. But when you've already qualified, you know you've qualified, what, a month in advance at least?
Yeah.
So it's then strange. I find it a strange decision that you'd pull out unless there's a emergency of some sort that means you can't play. But we're putting that to the arbiters of worth of this, because we've seen it before.
He's only $2,000 off the match play, and he didn't play.
We know how big that can be for someone's season.
Huge.
I guess this is where you rely on a team around you.
Yeah.
Management, family, friends, etc. Just to, in these little key, they seem insignificant. A Euro Tour in Austria, in the grand scheme of your season, doesn't seem that big. But when you put it into the context of chasing TV major appearances, it's potentially huge.
Yeah, completely. Absolutely massive. Also, a very cryptic message from Corey Cadby on social media last week.
Was it?
Have you not seen it?
No.
Wait a minute.
I live on social. I haven't seen anything.
Well, unless I saw it quickly and it was deleted. Right, so the 19th, which was 5 days ago, we got, guess who's back? Back again, tell a friend, the king is back with the hand over the mouth emoji.
That's exactly the same way he announced his return the last time.
Correct.
Hang on.
He's back.
Which one is he? There's 5 on Facebook.
Corey Cadby Wall.
Right. I can't see it.
He's back. He's back.
That would suggest to me, I don't know this either, by the way, but that would suggest to me that he may have been granted a visa.
Hopefully means Christian Perez has too. I don't think they're on a joint application, but
Imagine.
well, no, but they're both chasing it at a similar time, aren't they? So you expect that application would have gone in at a similar time. They would have had a similar amount of backing from the PDC to acknowledge them as professional players.
Yeah.
And that you'd expect turnaround time to be quite similar.
I told the man now that that's a joint application, even though it's not.
You're just going to walk into Wigan holding hands going, yoo-hoo, we're here.
How we doing, Will? Hope you are good, buddy. But yeah, look, that would suggest to me that potentially we may see Corey Cadby at the next set of Pro Tours.
Good.
Time will tell. We do have a Premier League this week, boys. We are going to, as John McDonald would say, the amazing city of Leeds.
Amazing as city of Leeds in the same sentence. Lol.
So there we have it. Chris Dobie plays Michael Smith, Michael Van Gogh and Peter Wright, Gary Price Clayton, and Nathan Aspinall against Dimitri Vandenberg. You know the drill by now. I'm just not gonna hang around on this. Winners, please. Chat room, get involved. First up, Price Aspinall.
Who?
I'm looking at the wrong one. I'm looking at Sheffield. My bad. Smith Dobie.
Amateur.
I had the wrong wiki page up. I was looking at Sheffield.
Christopher.
Michael, deciding vote, Philip.
Christopher.
Stop agreeing with me, edgy hipster. Fool.
Green Machine. Snakebite.
Green Machine.
Mean Machine.
Green Machine. Back right. Ferret against the Iceman.
Iceman.
Make that 2.
Make it 3. Back Clayton. And then Nathan Aspinall against Dimitri Vandenberg.
Dimmy.
Asp.
Dimmy. From there, I would like your finalists and your winner, gentlemen.
Price loses to Chris Dobie.
What?
In other words, he's going Chris Dobie to beat Gary Price in the final.
I thought that's what he said. I just wasn't sure.
Yes.
I was as confused with that as I was when the intro took early on in the show.
Pew pew. Fire some more shots. This is funny. This is, as Brad is a Leeds fan, this is very funny. Because their cricket team are in Div 2 as well.
Dimmy beats MVG in the final.
Are you drunk? Have you been on the
You just
Malibu?
give me shit for saying Chris Dobie, who's playing well and has already won a night, wins a night, and he's just said Dimmy, a man who has beaten Michael Van Gerwen once in 14 meetings, has played crap for 13 weeks, beats Van Gerwen in the final.
So he's beaten him, yeah? Josh Roth never beaten him. Whitewashed him. Anything can happen.
What happened to you in that hospital last week?
Jack, you defended me last week. I listened to the show still back last week. You defended me and said Mr. Bars was incorrect by sharing that information because it was my birthday.
Yeah, but now I'm not so sure, mate. What are you chatting?
I think you've been on the Malibu.
It's just water, I promise. Just water.
I'm not convinced. That's either a neat vodka or a neat Malibu, one or the other.
I swear to God.
He's on a Dimmy special. That's what that is.
Yeah.
Any excuse.
Dimmy wins on Thursday. Next Monday's going to be so much fun.
Wow. I am going Gerwin Price beats Michael Van Gerwen.
Yeah.
I'm going to keep rolling with it. Yes!
Right. Question time. What else have we missed in a week in darts? Mike Gillett picked up week 11 of the Super Series. Beat Cam Crabtree in the final. But also a massive shout out to Shawnee Mack. I know he listens back. Great to see him back playing. And considering that's the first time he's played competitively since Q School, a lot to like.
Solid.
Solid as a rock.
That wasn't Limp Bizkit.
Robert, we did that one last week, but yeah, still very sad. Yeah.
Edgar, I was going to say that before Jamie got there. Icelandic winner, Matthew Edgar.
Yeah. Congratulations, Matt. Back in the winner's circle, winning in Iceland. And you'll see him on the Super Series this week, Thursday and Friday.
Interesting timing. For a player that played through injury and said that he'd won it, but was happy it was going straight back on the treatment table, to then be back in action 4 days later is a short turnaround.
Well, I don't think he's pulled out, but obviously he'd said that before. He'd already committed to playing before Iceland, so yeah, I presume so. So right, get your questions in, everyone. Have we missed anything else in a week of darts?
No.
Probably, but not that I can remember.
Oh, it was a JDC thingy this weekend. Advanced Tour.
It was. I didn't see any of it, but it will be on Dart Connect.
I read an article that said Luke Littler beat everyone.
Was that this weekend or any previous weekend before?
Yeah,
live. Just in life.
Is it JDC not on Dart Connect anymore?
Yeah, it should be.
Oh, it'll be under you. So I'm looking under PDC.
Yeah, they're under JDC. And it was Tri Nations this weekend. Up the English. On St. George's Day, we won the lot. Ha!
We did. Huge shout out to Reece Tolley, who made his England debut as well. From my neck of the woods. Go on, Reece boy.
Right, so here we go. The JDC Advanced Tour.
Luke
5.
won 3 and lost in the final the other.
He averaged 93 and a 6-1 win in tournament number 1. In tournament number 2, he won 6-2 with an 88 average. How good is he going to be on tour next year? In event 3, he lost in the final with an 88. And then in event number 8, he won 6-1 with a nearly 94. Literally a couple of points under.
Steady. Missed
hard to
double
believe
twos
as well.
in
You've got to
the
take
process as well.
When you take into consideration he is only 16, it's bonkers, isn't it?
Yeah.
Ridiculous.
Right, so do we think Riccardo Petrescu can make the match play? Yes, I do. He's only under $2,000 off of it at the moment, 175 off of. Can he make it the way he's playing? For me, absolutely.
What's the cut-off we're saying for the match play? About 40?
Yeah. Between 40 and 45.
So only top 5 confirmed. Obviously, there's a lot in there that you'd expect to get that extra.
No, I think Dobie upwards are safe because I think they'll pick up
Enough, yeah.
The extra $5,000, whatever it is, between now and the cut-off would be.
Yeah, I think you're probably right. I'm just looking at it as a guarantee the top 5 are concrete in the match play.
No one is safe.
Stupid.
I don't make the rules. I just enforce them. Are they dark green yet?
No, but Josh Rock is safe. No one's.
Is he dark green?
Yeah, but Bo Greaves isn't dark green on the women's one, but she's safe.
Yeah, I got a bone to pick with you lot. Sort that out.
So your argument doesn't add up.
Yeah, Michael Smith isn't on the main order of merit as well, but I've got a feeling he's safe. He's only 900k in front.
Only? Well, he needs to sort his ideas out then, doesn't he? Not good enough.
Gerwyn Price was in Alloy. He had a tour of Scotland, 4 events, and his Scotland shirt looked flipping amazing.
Poor bloke.
He's learned to play the game, isn't he? Is Lewis still going to be a target launch? I had no idea. I don't know if Gezzy's got a lead shirt or not.
Some toilet roll.
We spoke about this earlier, mate. Not retiring at the moment. He's just having an extended break from the professional game. Will William O'Connor make the match play? I don't think he will. I think there are players in and around him that at the moment are playing better. He can.
Jim Williams didn't go. Ian White's looking steady. Miko's a bit far back.
Petresco's looking really good.
Yeah. Whitlock's catchable though.
Oh, he can make it, but I just think there are other players playing better than him right now.
Yeah.
Look at
The
him.
second word is off.
He's not in dark green. He's not in dark green.
Who invited these two?
Bob, don't be bad. Be better, man.
Don't be using my line against me. No. No. Especially not if you're going to butcher it. Do you know how long that took me? That's my catchphrase, man.
You raging.
Stupid.
But no, look, we're just sort of like getting towards that that busy time that the Premier League is almost done. And
Thank fuck. I mean, I love the Premier League. Oh no, what a shame.
Oh no!
Where will we go without Thursday night fallout bars and having to speak about it at the start and end of every Monday?
I'll tell you what though, as soon as that Premier League's done, all the questions are going to be on the format for next year.
Good.
And who's in?
9 months to make a difference.
Jack, is Andrew Dilden in the Premier League next year?
No. I've got more chance.
To be fair,
It's not back next year. If I walk on and do, if I steal Chris Dobie's walk on and do the actual Let's Get Ready to Rumble dance, I've got more chance.
I think your chances reduce if you do that dance.
You ain't seen me dance, bro.
Is it this weekend you're in Liverpool?
No, it was Saturday night and it got cancelled.
Oh, did it?
Yeah.
What did it get cancelled for?
Stupid student. Well, the event didn't get cancelled. I got cancelled. Student union rules. Yeah, they weren't allowed non-students in the building. Yeah.
Well, fair enough. I was going to say, because if it was this weekend, we'd say we'd get you to do the dance on stage then.
I nailed it. No fair.
Also, darts related, but massive shout out to Abby, one of the PDC dancers, who unfortunately ruptured her Achilles. Won't be seeing her hopefully until the Worlds, but hope she gets better soon.
Do they need a replacement? Is that why you said it?
Oh no!
Sorry, lads, I'm not here for the next 5 weeks. I'm touring Leeds and Manchester.
I've just got comparisons. I've just got pictures of that Sam Smith, you next to him, saying who did it better.
I did give myself Nottingham Stag Do vibes though, because obviously we've got Hooters, so all you see is blokes walking around in the Hooters outfit.
Yeah. Yeah. Look, absolutely. Look what the Premier League's done to God, having a midlife crisis in his 20s.
What do you mean?
He's not in his 20s.
Oh, Gob's been absolutely ruined tonight, isn't he?
I'm 28, you cheeky bastard.
You really?
Yeah. Phil's older than A.D. Lewis.
But I've got a better skincare routine.
Yeah, but you're wearing a tap backwards to hide your hairline, so...
Not hairline, just lack of styling, because I need a trim.
Prove it.
Gob's not available in a few weeks. He's going to Turkey.
Not on my wages. We need more sponsors.
Going to get his hair done. And
teeth first. Turkey teeth.
Everyone, it's been an absolute pleasure tonight's live lounge having the boys on from the CDC. Lots of good chat. It's been a good laugh, boys, tonight.
Speak for yourself.
All good.
All good. Fallout Bar returns on Thursday with all the reaction from what could happen in Leeds.
I heard it's Leeds' turn because they're not in Europe anymore. Yes, that's both of you. Stick your treble up your ass.
We've got the team who've got an interim in a Champions League sort of playoff type game. We'll talk about it one year, Doc, when you're back in it.
Still chances this year, mate. We're rolling.
Yeah. Not a chance.
You're crap.
Not a chance.
And Spurs.
Oh, we are shit. I'm not even hiding that fact. Everyone, it's been an absolute pleasure. Like I say, Fallout Bar returns. If you haven't yet, make sure you drop us a like and subscribe. Plenty coming up. We're going to start our match play planning soon. Not far away, boys.
Christ.
2 months.
Think about it. It's not, is it?
True. Tickets for the Seniors World Championship go on sale next week, 10 a.m.
They do.
Well, if I'm not on Thursday, this will be the last chance I get speech. So yeah, 10 a.m. next Thursday, next Monday. And I'm not on next Monday.
Well, hey.
Gob's going to Turkey.
I'll take that. It's better than hospital bed.
It depends what we tell everyone you're going to Turkey for.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter how much you spend there, making this look any better. Right, just say goodbye now. He's getting all
he's going, oh, they're picking on me. Everyone, as Gob's being bullied on the show, he wants to go and report it to HR. We have been Online Darts, Phill Bars, Jack Garwood, Lee Boyce. Absolute pleasure, everyone. We'll see you same time, same place next week, minus Gob, because he's on the plane to Turkey.